what is the perceived risk of being vulnerable? What are men scared of in that space?
Men feel very deeply, actually, but they just don't know how to articulate it, and as well. They struggle there. So we're definitely behind the 8 ball on that.
And I know that she doesn't give a rip.
Yeah.
Right? But she knows that it matters to me. And if it matters to me, then it matters to her.
But it's not a burden because I want to share, what you're feeling as well.
Welcome to the Living Richly podcast. So glad you're joining us today. Today, we're talking about what every man, I can't say it, wishes his woman understood. And today, this is kind of a two-parter. So this is the second part where we were diving in to the female perspective. And now we're going to be diving into Rob, you, and Eric. And we want to hear all about your point of view. And we want to get in your brains today.
Tell us all the things.
I just realized the way we sequence these, we get the last word.
Oh, that's smart. That's really smart. Let me just start off by saying a few things. That last conversation was the bomb. Good. That was really, really good. But we're here obviously to try to bring a men's perspective, but there's no illusion for the two of us that we speak for all men. We speak from our experience, and that's what we're going to be sharing from today.
Yeah.
Secondly, not everything we share about is about our current relationships, right?
Yeah,
it's what we've learned over time, so I want to make that clear. Okay. And third, I have to say, sitting here, I felt a little bit in the other show, but the pressure really wasn't on us because it was really about understanding where you ladies are coming from. I do feel some anxiety about having this conversation right now. And as I said on the last show, I think, Dr. Sherry might be very busy for the next several weeks.
Well, and I think part of it is we're debunking today, this sort of myth that men don't have feelings, men don't feel, they shut down, they go quiet. And so we're going to dive into talking, and I would say unpacking all of that. But why do you think that myth still exists today? And do you think in any way is it damaging to men?
I think the men are clueless stereotype is very damaging and is actually inaccurate. Is it true that men struggle to show emotion and to better name what they're feeling? 100%. I think the social conditioning, the societal expectations drilled into us since we're little, don't cry, don't feel. It's so hard. Men have a lot to overcome on that front. And so we've overdeveloped on sometimes the logic side, why it feels sometimes like we're Vulcans and can approach things without this deep feeling around it. Men feel very deeply, actually, but they just don't know how to articulate it, and as well. They struggle there. So we're definitely behind the 8 ball on that. But I'd like to say, just because we see it or feel it differently, different is not deficient. Different isn't weird. Different isn't clueless. Different is just different. And when we use and propagate the men are clueless kind of thing around this stuff, all we do is reinforce the stereotype, creating an even greater hurdle for men to overcome, and in many ways providing them something to hide behind.
But all of media, and certainly Hollywood, you see that myth being enhanced. Right? It's always there. The clueless guy, usually, kind of just the simple, stupid guy, and then the gorgeous woman that he's with. And we see it all through Hollywood is this myth that guys don't get emotions. That's the whole running joke. So I think the reason why so many people believe it is because, of course, they get their truth from social media and from movies and TV shows.
You mean TikTok is not the bomb?
Right, I get it, but it is often perpetuated there.
Yeah, 100%.
I agree. And I think for men, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think respect.
Oh, we will.
I know.
Somehow I have no doubt.
We have permission to correct you in
Rob
this
made it
episode.
clear we get the final word.
And that's a wrap.
And I'm calling Dr. Sherry right now.
But I think respect is a big word for men. And I'd love to understand your lens. What does that look like in a relationship? How does that show up for you? What does it even mean for you?
You want to go first?
Well, my answer was going to be, I think what everything Eric just said is right on.
Well, let's be clear. I think this gets misunderstood. Respect for men is like fuel. It is like oxygen,
Yeah.
and its absence makes us shrink in a big way. But respect isn't about us being like these, needing to be treated like these fragile kings and need our egos to be bowed to. It's not that kind of respect. I think sometimes when women maybe hear the word respect, maybe they think it's this extreme thing. I wrote this down. I'm going to read some of it because I want to get it right. What I was really, it's way simpler and way deeper for me anyway. Respect looks like being seen as competent, capable, and good-hearted, even when I'm struggling, being trusted, not micromanaged, second-guessed, or prejudged, being spoken to like a partner, not a project. That's not in our current relationship, but in past relationships, I was a project to be fixed. Being appreciated for the things I do quietly and not just the big heroic stuff. That to me is what it means to be respected.
Yeah,
I don't know what you.
Yeah, and to our listeners, we often, as we prepare for these episodes, we do write out some notes and we get things written, and so that's why I'm joking when I say, when Eric asked if I wanted to go first, I literally had seen what he wrote and thought, yeah, I really pretty much what Eric says. I don't think he's writing just for himself. I think most men would say that. Yeah. If I was to add to it, I think respect is understanding the intention behind the action, and that I may get it wrong. I may not do it exactly the way it should be done, whatever the case is. But recognize that when I'm doing something, my intention is to do good and to show Wendy that I love her or care. And to respect for me is when you celebrate the intention more than the action.
Yeah. And we talked about on the last show, right, where I think you used the language, Wendy, women are lean more towards the emotional side of things. Men lean more towards action and deeds and getting shit done. And we are wired so deeply. I think we all are. I think everyone struggles with performance mentality to some degree, but for men, our very identity is based in it. It's what we're told. The measure of a man is how he performs. Performs in business, performs at home, performs in the bedroom even. Like there's this whole notion that if you are not rocking it, you're a complete failure. And so when a woman speaks to a man in a way that makes him feel like she believes in him and that she supports him, not exclusively one way, but supports him and sees the effort and recognizes the effort, that is like oxygen to a man.
So I'm curious because I understand that, but what's the flip then? Like what happens when you're not getting that level of respect? Walk me, because I get this piece, but how does it show up for you when you're maybe that it feels disrespectful or there's that lack of respect?
I think for me, like if I sense that is not happening or that my efforts aren't being recognized, again, that's my work to do. I tell people all the time, you are your own primary caregiver. That is it's ultimately every person's responsibility to make sure their needs are taken care of, right? Doesn't mean I can meet all my own needs, but it's my responsibility to ask for what I need. And so I know that my work continues to be to work on my performance mentality and understand that my worth isn't completely tied to what I achieve. And just to the last few months have been difficult personally for me because I'm a whole other layer of this has just been exposed for me, and we've talked about it. And so I know that's my work to do. But when I sense that my efforts aren't being recognized, or that my efforts not being seen, or that I'm failing the grade, that's where for me I start to shrink back. I start to shut down. I start to distance because the fear is, if I'm already failing, anything else I do is probably going to make this worse. And I think when you talked about seeing the intent, I think it was spot on, because even in the shrinking or the distancing or the going quiet, that is most of the time, at least for me, not actually distancing. This is me protecting you from more of my shit and more of my mistakes. And so I'd rather go this way than perhaps overstep and make things make matters even worse.
And what's interesting is that pull away, right, for the other person, like we'll flip it a little bit for the female perspective, is when you pull away, it's this like, it's like, oh, he's disconnecting. Why is he disconnecting? Or he's distant. What did I do? I did something wrong. He's not interested. Like, and that's what the female brain goes on. So it's interesting.
And we can take it very personally.
Very personally.
Right. Where it becomes then more like of a physical, or like, oh, is he like, he's not attracted to me anymore.
I'm so glad you said that, because that's a huge part of it. Sometimes you're like, oh, he's not interested in me anymore. He's not physically attracted to me. Who is he physically attracted in? Our brains want.
But I do think, and to go back to that, there's a distinction between men who have done the healthy work and those who haven't, because those who haven't, when they're not respected, you made the comment last episode about how men will then, if they're not getting that acknowledgement there, they'll do it at work, right? They need that to feel like, okay, I'm good at something, so they'll dive in more intentionally.
Or worse, they'll seek it in other relationships.
Relationships. They'll see, and may not even be it's often not sexual. It's they're looking for that respect, that sense of acknowledgement of who they are in that moment. Again, when they're unhealthy. When they're healthy, they recognize that can't come from someone else anyway. Yeah. And that they need to do that internal work for themselves.
Yeah. So what are some other examples then, if you're feeling like you're not providing, you're not performing? Because clearly this is something that men, are feeling that they need to deliver on. What happens, you gave a great example there, but what else happens for you when you feel like you're falling short?
Well, again, it's that.
Like, how does it show up?
It shows up in, for me, it shows up in judging myself very harshly. I have still to this day, my inner critic is still pretty strong. I thought I had fired him. He just keeps showing up for work every day. So that continues to be a challenge for me. I've made lots of progress, but recently I made a comment in a conversation with Sherry, and she knows me pretty well. I've been working together with her. I've been working with her since 2016, so almost 10 years. And I made the statement that I really thought I was further down the road on this. And she paused because she knows how hard I can be on myself. She goes, "Oh, that sounded pretty critical." And I said, "Actually, I don't think it's critical. I think I'm just observing. I'm just recognizing that there's still a lot of work to be done." So what happens is, if I feel like I'm failing, and it's interesting. We talked about it on the show. It's like earlier on the last episode that sometimes it feels like men don't care. They do care. They just don't necessarily care about the same things the same way. When it comes to this piece here, like, if we feel like we're failing the people that matter most to us, that is like epic. Like it's like that knocks the wind out of us completely, right? So if we feel like we're failing, or we feel like we're not making the grade, and you're in a relationship where there's not good communication, and you're feeling disrespected, you're not appreciated, your efforts not being seen. Again, I'm very careful. Like, that word respect is loaded for so many people. It's not the fragile king who needs to be like, no, it's just that notion of see me, like being seen, being heard, being recognized for the effort that's being put in. If we don't feel that at home, and we feel like that we're making a ton of missteps, or a lot of missteps, or regular missteps, we are going to double down. Like, the first place that happens is we just double down at work. And we wonder why guys often do that and spend more time because at least at the work side, most guys can feel like they move the needle. Right. And then at home, they feel like, I'm not moving the needle, or I'm moving it in the wrong direction, right? I'm making mistakes. So I think that's part of the challenge.
I think it is. And for me, I go quiet for sure. I'm more of that I will distance and often shut down because, well, what's the point? I think the flip side of that, and perhaps the easiest way to answer how does it show up when I'm not, is the opposite of how it shows up when I am. And when I am, I'm more connected. I become more engaged. I think I know that, and again, in our relationship, because Wendy does do this well, in fact, it's interesting because I'm not used to having a partner who shows and demonstrates that respect. Often I will get uncomfortable when she is talking to me and sharing and being like really just celebrating me. It's weird to me. And so then I have to process that. But I will say, even though I get kind of, well, but still internally, you feel bigger, you feel stronger, you feel connected, you're right. And so there's a lot more humor. I think there's a lot more laughter in a relationship when men feel that they're being respected because they can let go and they can just be kind of silly and honest and all of those things. Yeah. So I think there's how it shows up it can be pretty powerful.
Yeah. And I think for guys, and this may be true, again, I'm only speaking of my experience, but I think it's true of the many guys that I've spoken to. When we feel like we're falling short, shame hits really fast. Because again, the definition of our worth is often wrapped up in our performance, our ability to deliver and to get shit done. So if we feel like that's not landing, and most men, I think, suffer in silence a lot of the time because admitting struggle. So I'm struggling and I'm failing for guys is synonymous.
Yeah.
Right. So, because struggle's not okay. I had a client, just this week, and he's been on the leadership side really challenged as of late. I mean, he's having to lead this large organization. He's a significant leader, upper echelons, and they're doing a major reorg, which means a lot of good people that are going to get laid off, and he's in charge of those decisions, and a lot of people that he likes, and he's feeling the pressure. And he was sharing that with me. And it was so hard for him. And here's a guy that we have had trusted conversations for 2-3 years. And I know he knows it's a safe space, but even in that space, he was struggling. And I could see the shame land on him that he was talking about this other leader who, for them, it's no big deal. They just let people go and it's not a problem. And I'm feeling this, like I'm feeling for them. I'm feeling for their families. And you could feel the weight just on him. And I looked at him, I said, you get that that's not a sign of weakness. That's a sign of your genius. Because you care so deeply, that's why you're such a powerful leader, or effective leader. But the thing is, for him, struggle equals failure. And I think for guys, we equate the two.
Well, it's interesting because I think I talked on our first date actually about alpha, beta in men. And I read this book, and it's a horribly written book, and I can't remember the name of it. And I'm not a big reader, as you guys know, but I did.
We won't promote a horror.
I know, but the concept in it was just so blatant. It's a bit like men are from Mars, women are from Venus. But the concept is like there's alpha and beta energy. So like an alpha male is an alpha male. Picture a beta male at the other spectrum. Like if you're gonna like super emotional, not like athletic, not whatever. Like the typical as you would stereotype. But there's a lot of women are still seeking an alpha male. They often want to feel protected and safe. And that's typically what we call an alpha male. It's alpha male. I'm going to protect you. Right. For those of you can't, I just flex.
You're flexing.
That was an impressive flex.
Thanks. I'm channeling my inner male. I'm kidding. But anyway, so we seek out alpha. Yeah. But what's interesting, the way the book talked about it was that women often seek out male, like alpha energy in specific moments, but they also need a lot of beta moments, like those moments where we want to feel heard and we want compassion. We don't want like alpha energy in the room, like, the testosterone driven energy. We crave both. And what's interesting is every woman has a different, think of alpha on the left, beta on the right. You're somewhere in that scale is what works for you and what you need in a relationship. And it's a really great visual to think of beta on a scale to alpha and where do you sit and what you need. And it can, and it can change based on where you're at. But I think my whole point there was that I think a lot of women, I think subconsciously a lot, and we don't talk about it, we are still seeking a provider. We are still seeking, and not like, I'm not saying we're the expectation, like, me, I'm fiercely independent. I'm going to make my own money. Like I'm great, but there is something in me that still wants to be
and I think
safe
guys,
and protected.
Yeah. And I think guys want to be both.
Yeah.
Right. I this notion that guys don't want to be the care, like be able to connect emotionally. I don't know a lot of guys that there are some, but I don't know a lot of guys that would just be, I just want to be this alpha male. I think they genuinely want the both. I will say I started at the beginning about the myth of Hollywood. One of the things we do see in Hollywood now is that the strong kind of male character, they now have an emotional side. Why? Because more men and women are communicating that is the desire, is to find that. I think for guys, sometimes in a relationship, we talked about last week about mind reading. It's difficult in the moment to know, am I showing up here now as provider, protector, or as connector, whatever word we would use there? How do I show up in this moment to best serve the person I care about?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say on the the dealing with emotion, again, men are very emotional beings, and I think that's what people really need to understand, is that men feel a lot of emotions. They feel the full range. They just don't know how to name them necessarily. They're confused about what to do with them because, again, programmed from basically little kids to not feel and just rub some dirt on it and pick yourself up and keep going. And so now all of a sudden we reach adulthood and we understand, well, that doesn't really work, but we haven't had a lot of training. We haven't had a lot of practice. And I would say to the guys listening to say, that's not an excuse, right? It's a skill that you can learn. It's like going to the gym. It's doing the reps. But I will say that there's a lot of fear and hesitation there. Because I can see it. Every single dude that I talk to about the Foundry, and I talk about men who have been successful in business and in life, but somehow feel there's part of their gears not working, life's not showing up the way they want. When I start to talk about this stuff, they all resonate. But then I can also see there's this there's this sense of, and then there's, you could see almost the anxiety because it's like, I don't know how to do that, or I don't know how to do that well. Tie that with our worth is tied to performance, and the fear that is associated with going there is a thing. It's a real thing for us, because we're almost like, if I can't do it right, or I'm going to get it wrong. That's a big mental hurdle that guys have to overcome.
Okay,
but they can overcome it.
To help our kind of female listeners, I think a little bit, can you guys share maybe an example of when you, like, a gesture of appreciation came your way, something that you were like, oh, that really meant the world to me? Because I think it'll help our female listeners understand what hit home. At least a few examples.
I mean, for me, I don't even know if it's a single gesture. It happens often. Is how Wendy will take interest when I'm geeking out on something. I want to show her something. Oh, I think this is really cool. Or look at this. Look at what Chad can do. Or, or check out this. I watch this trailer of this show that looks really cool. And I know that she doesn't give a rip.
Yeah.
Right. But she knows that it matters to me. And if it matters to me, then it matters to her. And she'll take that time, or I'll talk about, half my house is wired with Google Home. And look, I can.
Half your house? Dude, the toilet seat was talking to me before the show started.
Right. And I'll show her, look, I can change it. I'm setting up a vacation schedule.
I hope you don't have a camera in the bathroom.
No. But I do have, when we go away on holidays, I have different lights come on at different times that looks like the house
toilet
is
seat
occupied.
goes up, toilet seat goes down.
Right? So she doesn't mock me like some people do. She does mock me. But she also takes interest in it. Oh, how does that work? Oh, that's it. And I know she doesn't care. And we're playing a game. But it matters to me, and so it matters to her.
Games are fun.
They are.
Games are fun.
I think just the recognition of effort, that gesture. Sometimes, I mean, you do this all the time, and not all the time, but you do it frequently enough that, like, I feel like my efforts are being recognized, and that you're grateful for them. I think they don't have to be grand gestures. Often it's just that, the touch on the side of the arm and that look that just says thank you, right? You feel seen. You feel like you're making. You're showing up, maybe not showing up perfectly, but that you're showing up. Those things go a long way.
Well, and I think that comes back to the communication in your relationship and your love languages, right? So I think words of affirmation, if those matter for you, communicating to your partner what matters and how you want to receive, right? And you need to be able to know what that is. Because if I bought you, some Google thing that puts the toilet seat down, I don't think you'd be really happy.
I'd geek out for a moment, but it wouldn't have the same.
I was gonna say, does Eric geek out on stuff like that?
Oh yeah, it's just very different stuff.
I geek out mostly on sci-fi and
totally.
fantasy stuff.
Yeah,
and,
like when there's a new sci-fi and he's like, he's so giddy. It's like
I'm like a little kid.
Yeah,
I am.
A new Star Wars movie comes out,
God.
and Eric's going to tell you where it fits in the canon of Star Wars and how and why this lightsaber is this color, and
he explains everything, and I'm like, you lost me at a star.
You lost me 20 minutes ago. Yeah,
you lost me at star.
Well, that goes back. I was 1977, so I was 6 years old when my parents took us to see Star Wars when it first came out in 1977. And my dad had a big station wagon at the time, and we pull into the drive-in theater that's no longer there in Gloucester in East End of the city. And I still remember we were in our pajamas, my brother and I, who was 2 years older than me. I still remember playing on the swings, right? Because it was, how you would be waiting for the sun to come down enough to start the movie. So we'd play. And then Dad had set us up on the roof with of the station wagon with a sleeping bag and pillows. So we were lying there watching the movie.
So fun.
And since then I've been completely hooked. So so I totally geek out on sci-fi for that reason.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, it's fantastic. I love it. Okay, I'm going to flip it a little bit instead of like geeking out and talking a lot. Oftentimes, I shouldn't say often, at times, thank you, Sherry, men go quiet. And it is a bit of a mystery to us women sometimes, understanding what's behind the quiet. And I can imagine it's different for, I don't want to lump all men into one category, but what is that for you when you go quiet? What is happening?
So I would say that for me, I can only speak for myself, but I think some men will resonate with this. Silence is not distancing for us. Silence is our attempt. We don't go silent or withdraw because we don't care. It's actually the very opposite of that. We often go silent because we're trying to understand what's going on for us. It's almost like a regulation thing. Like we're just trying to figure it out. Remember, we're not as good at deciphering the feelings that are going on inside of us. The only feelings we're allowed to have, according to society, is I can be chill and I can rage. Anything else is suspect. And I might get called a pussy, weak. I may get called all kinds of names. And don't get me started on the pussy thing. I think it's the worst analogy for weakness. It's the strongest. Anyway, it gives birth, right? Anyway, so that's a whole misnomer. But we're only allowed to feel a very limited range of emotions publicly, but we still have this storm of emotion happening internally. So when we withdraw, go quiet, at least when I do, it's because I'm overwhelmed in that moment. And I would say I've done a fair amount of work. I regularly will use things like a feelings wheel to get present to what is going on under the hood. But even with all that work, there are just times where if it's been a hard week and I'm tired and I'm stressed, and all of a sudden it's like I don't have the same access to those tools. And so when I withdraw, is because I'm trying to protect you from saying the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing until I kind of can figure it out, figure out the way forward. So I get that it can send a signal. And I know I've had to, even recently had to say to you, I know, babe, I haven't been showing up the same way. I've been kind of distant. Here's what's going on for me right now. Because I know that's the signal because when I show up, I show up. I'm hard to miss. I'm a big personality and lots of energy. And when that's not part of the equation, that can be very disconcerting.
You're chatty and very connected. And so when you're not chatty and connected. Yeah, my head will spiral on what is going on. Why, and we touched on this a bit earlier, but why are you so distant? What did I do? Because it's all about me.
Right. So I would say
that's my story.
Yeah. I think if there's one thing I would say to, if I was to say something to women, I'm careful to say that, but about understanding your man is that don't equate distance or silence with distance. This isn't, for us, it's not that. It's wiring. It's how we self-regulate. Is we need to pull back, evaluate. Remember, we will try to reason our way forward more than we feel our way forward. So if we're overwhelmed with feelings, then our reasoning is compromised, and now we're it's like we're walking on the ground, but it's like Jello, and so it doesn't feel solid under our feet. And we don't want to say something out of turn. We don't want to do the wrong thing. We don't want to hurt you.
Yeah.
We don't want to put additional pressure on you, and we also don't want to take a step that then is the wrong one, and now add to what we're feeling. We just failed.
Yeah.
Well, and I think there's also
it's complicated.
Complicated.
Men are complicated.
Yeah, we're more complicated than we. I thought we were really simple.
Maybe I'm just complicated.
Maybe.
Oh,
No, because
Hey, Rob, fuck you.
Thank you. Because I resonate with that, and I would agree. I don't think you're just speaking for yourself. I think most men do. That silence is the processing that's happening, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. And I know that's the case for me. In other situations, the silence is me moving into protector mode. And so if I'm, and for a lot of men, if let's say something is going wrong at work and they're concerned or they're frustrated or whatever, they come home and they're processing all of that, and they don't want to burden their significant other with what's going on, because then they don't want them worrying, well, are you going to lose your job, or is what's going to happen? And right there, that's what you're thinking. And so it's actually a caring mechanism, because you care about your significant other, that you're then often not sharing what's going on. Again, not because you're pulling back, but because you're protecting. Now, that's where communication needs to come in to be able to say that's not a healthy way.
And we've had conversations where like we pick up on it, right? Like women are like radar sometimes.
And we're like, just leave us alone.
Right. But there have been times where you've had stuff going on and you're quiet, and I'm taking it as, I know we're fine, but like, what's wrong? Like, you're quiet and I've got all of this stuff going on, that I'm dealing with. And right away you're like, well, I don't want to burden you with, and in my mind, I'm like, but it's not a burden because I want to share, what you're feeling as well.
But and I love hearing that, because I think it's so important for us to remember that. But in the moment, again, I was talking to a guy, a leader that I just met recently, and we were talking about the Foundry. And it's interesting, as soon as I introduced that subject, one-to-one, how guys go from tough bravado to they just open right up. Guys are actually, the vast majority of men are just looking for a place that feels safe. And it's not that they don't necessarily feel safe at home. It's the burden piece. I'm supposed to be the protector, provider. I also get there's an immature version of men that are looking for another mom to take care of them.
Yes.
And silence is brooding, pouting, passive aggressive.
Yeah.
There's that side of it. But a more advanced version of it is what we're talking, or not advanced, but a different version of it is where you're trying to process. But this guy, as we're talking, he said, yeah, I just finally started therapy this year. He says, I just felt the need to do it. So I was celebrating that all day long. I said, I think it's great. I think it takes great courage. People think that's weak, but it's the opposite of that, because a weak person won't seek out help. A strong person seeks out help, right? That takes fucking courage to do what you did. And then he told me, he says, well, I've been going since, anyway, for months. He goes, I've been going, but my wife doesn't even know. And again, part of that is not wanting. Now, do I think that's healthy? No. Ultimately, I think it'd be better if his wife knew he was getting help, right? Because it's like, I can imagine once she finds out, that's going to be difficult. Why didn't you tell me? I don't know what the dynamic of their relationship is, but there's something there where he feels, I don't want to burden her. I don't want her to know I'm doing this on my own. That's where guys go to, is we want to figure it out and solve it for ourselves.
Yeah. And I will say, I do think there are women who are like, keep it to yourself. I don't want to know.
Right.
I think those women exist too. I think around this table, that's not how we are.
Yeah.
I want to know everything.
Yeah, I actually want to know far too much.
How'd your session go with Sherry? What did you talk about?
Did you talk about me? Did you talk about me?
What? What'd you say? No, that never happened.
No, we always
told
joke.
her I was a bitch, didn't you?
So we all, for our listeners, so we all work with Sherry. She's our coach. She's our like therapist. And we each see her.
Yeah, we don't see her together.
We don't see her together. But sometimes we joke around about what it must be like to be her, to hear all these stories interconnected from different perspectives about. It must be
hearing
like
the same story from different perspectives, and not being able to say, "Oh, that's interesting."
That's interesting because I heard that from
Sits back in her chair.
Well, alrighty then.
Alrighty.
Exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
we talked about silence and how that can get misconstrued. What about some other feelings, go back to your feelings wheel, that women maybe miss or they misread from their partner?
Wow, that's a great question. Other emotions that we feel and express or feel?
You feel like you've expressed that we miss it somehow. We misread it.
We're clueless.
We're clueless. We don't, or we're misinterpreting it.
It's interesting now, and maybe this is how the question is meant. When I saw this question in advance, I immediately went to what are the things that I do that demonstrate feelings that are maybe missed.
Yeah,
that you don't see the feeling in the action.
Yeah.
And I don't think this is the case. I think Wendy will recognize this certainly most of the time. Maybe not all the time. I don't know. I don't keep a scorecard or track it.
Yes, you do.
To be perfectly, I don't. But
she does.
Yeah, she does.
She just whispered across the table. She went, "I do."
Oh, I know. I've seen the scorecard.
No.
I called you. I'm failing
Be a
back.
healthy marriage.
But I'll do things like give her the last bite of something.
You don't.
A meal. Not always. I will. There's one cold Coke Zero in the fridge. Oh, she's getting the Coke Zero, but that's I'm not even gonna mess with that. I know.
Well, that's probably survival right there.
But I think it's the small gestures. There are so many little things that we do that guys will do. So I had a stressful day the other day, and I knew she was stressed. I knew there was a lot on her plate, and she was dealing with all this stuff. And I wasn't feeling good. I was struggling with a little bit, but I moved some client meetings because I wasn't feeling good, and I knew I just couldn't sit in front of my computer. So at one minute I thought, you know what? I know what she'll love is if we're recording this early before Christmas, but I thought I'm gonna put up the Christmas tree, so she'll have the tree up and she can start to decorate it and everything like that. I know that I love it. It's a small gesture, but there was a lot of feeling and emotion behind doing that small gesture. She does pick up. She knew that's what I was doing by making that, and articulated that to me, communicated. But I think it's those small gestures that a lot of times women think, well, you're just doing something, and no. There's a lot of feeling being expressed behind it.
I think that's so well said. Men show feelings. A lot of feelings through their actions, through practical things like send that funny text, clean the kitchen, take the garbage out. We may
mow the lawn.
Steve.
All right, I think we're giving him too much leeway.
He's getting carried away back there. But I think it's important to recognize that those actions are emotions translated into doing. Yeah. Again, we don't have the same emotional range unless a guy is working on that. And I do believe 100%. I think men do hide behind, well, we're just not good at feelings. You're right. We're not, because the programming, it's not modeled well. It's often made fun of. For a man to admit vulnerability or be vulnerable is very, very, it's difficult for most people. I don't care what side of the equation you're on. But for men, that's even more charged. But one of the ways we know how to express it is those little things. But because they're practical, because they're just day-to-day things, I think the emotion that's driving them it just gets missed. It can get missed.
Yeah, and I will own, I think sometimes as women, we don't give you the space sometimes to do that. Like, I'll give a practical example of I wanted to vacuum because Loki's over and my allergies are on fire. And so I say I'm going to vacuum, but I wasn't feeling well, I think. I can't remember what the context was. Anyways, Eric had said, I'll vacuum, but he was doing something else. And I just stubborn Kate, I'm just going to vacuum. So I start to go do it. And he's like, can you just let me vacuum? I was going to get to it. And I'm like, it's fine. Like, I've totally got it. And he's like, oh my God. And it's like, and I can see it where he's trying to help. And I'm even like not meaning to, but I get in my own way sometimes of even allowing that space.
And fast forward that, I mean, it didn't develop into that for us, but fast forward where that's happening all the time. Yeah. Where the man is trying to show up and even if it appears inept, even if he's folding the towels the wrong way, even if he's not putting the diaper on the way you would do it. Again, if there's a way you want it done, I think communicating that's tremendously helpful. We won't necessarily it's not something we're used to doing. We don't know what preferences you have by default. So, but even if the effort is made and it doesn't quite meet the grade, it's recognizing that behind that, there's
the intention.
The intention is to try. I may not be able to demonstrate the emotion of it the way you would, but this is me trying to throw that your way. This is what I know. I'm a doer. So this is what I know. Yeah.
So when that results in like an argument, let's say, how do you resolve that sort of argument where one person wants space and one person wants to talk? Because oftentimes, like, it's not that way in our relationship, but a lot of times women want to talk it out and men don't. They want a bit of space.
I'd say name the difference instead of fighting it. If just like we were talking about at the last episode, how you and I, we don't do it all the time, but we have used the Brene Brown, I'm at 10% or I'm at 20% or whatever. Or, hey, I'm at 80%, so I've got you, right? That's communicating sort of in the moment what we need from each other. I think it's the same with something like this. Name the difference. So the other person may be ready to talk it out, and the other part of the couple is saying, I need some space. You and I have a standing agreement that we can put a pin in it. And by putting a pin in it is not it. What we're saying is this is not the right moment. One of us needs time or space, or I'm tired, or I'm not clear on what I think right now. But putting a pin in it isn't parking the conversation forever. It's, can we revisit this tomorrow? Can we revisit this later? I think that I'm a verbal processor by nature. So I remember Jim, my mentor that I've mentioned several times, who's been on the show. I remember him saying to me years ago, he's saying, Eric, it's like you don't really need me on the call. I said, what do you mean, Jim? He says, you just talk it out and you figure it out as you're talking it out. He's like, I feel like I don't do a lot and you just find your way. And I'm like, oh, you do so much. He goes, you actually kind of find your way forward. So I process that way. Now, that works for me in some cases, but those thoughts are unfiltered. They're not mature. They're like top of mind, what I'm feeling, thinking, and if anybody, and if you were to, I'm recognizing if there are times if I'm doing that, that's a lot for you to process because you don't know what part of that is true or whether that's me just trying to think it through verbally. So understand your partner, their communication style, what they need. But the easiest thing is simply to ask the question, right?
Yeah, and
what do you need right now?
I'll take more words and over communication.
And you're like that too. And you'll often say I'm just talking through things out. I'm just, processing, or I'm just talking out what's in my head right now. And it might not make sense, but you do that sometimes too.
Yeah, well, I'll do both because I often will take some time where I'm thinking about it. I need that space to think. And then, yes, you're right. You are my trusted person to talk out now how I'm feeling. Sometimes I talk it out and it's good. I don't need to do anything else with it. I think so there is a mix of both. Asking in the moment, what do you need from me is good. The best practice is to set that understanding of how you're going to handle those moments when you're not in those moments. And I think that's something that many couples miss. And even for guys, if we understand the ground rules, if we understand how the game is played, what are the rules for this sport or whatever the case is, we can function within them. And so when we sit down and say, okay, when there are situations when this come up, we're gonna use the I'm an 8, I'm a 10, I'm a 2 or whatever. We're gonna use that model, or we're going to agree. I think we use guiding principles with Rhapsody. We teach our clients to use that. I think one of the at the top of that list that should be on every couple's list of best practices around this is I'm going to believe you have the best intentions for me.
Assume good intent.
Assume good intent. Yeah. So if I go silent, I would ask Wendy to assume that that's not a negative or a reflection on you. It's me for whatever I'm working through, but assume good intent.
It's just like that meme, right? They're a couple lying in bed.
Yeah,
and the one guy's got like they've got their backs to each other, and the woman's thinking he's thinking of another woman. He's thinking and going through all this stuff in her head, and like he's thinking about like what he's going to have for breakfast.
Yeah.
Right? Or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
it's great.
Like literally, yeah.
Make up all kinds of them. Yeah.
So there's also, I would argue, sort of out there in the world, on the interweb, as we call it.
In the world verse.
Interweb?
Yeah.
What's it actually called? Internet. Wow. It's been a long day of recording. But that
information superhighway.
Oh,
Ooh,
there's a
that
term that hasn't been used in a while.
Now you're geeking out.
1990s called it. They dialed up. They dialed up. They want.
Do you remember the modem sound?
Yeah, I can hear it. You instantly hear it.
And you go to pick up the call, and somebody's on the computer. You're like,
get off.
Yeah.
But there is, this that it's hard for men to be vulnerable. But what is it that for you, like, what is the perceived risk of being vulnerable? What are men scared of in that space?
I mean, I'm being judged, being misunderstood. I think those are right up at the top of the list of being wrong, because if I'm being vulnerable in that moment, to your point, if I'm talking this out and I'm just being open, and then I realize that's not how I'm feeling, like now I'm wrong and now you think I'm wrong. And so I think there's a lot that goes on about processing. And if I need to be vulnerable and open, I'm going to be, again, either judged, attacked, or misunderstood.
Yeah. So I think we're terrified of being seen as weak.
Right.
And I think there's this thing about we really don't want to disappoint the people that matter the most to us. So there's a lot to overcome there. It feels like the stakes can feel really high and the margin for error feel very small. And so the willingness to take that risk. We work with clients all the time. I got, really strong personality type leaders who complain that their teams don't speak up more or don't engage more. And I'm like, well, part of it is because when they try, right, you may overpower them too quickly, or you may come at them too strong and not give them enough space to build up the muscle. And I think it's the same where men are trying to make that effort, again, assuming good intent, even if we're fumbling our way forward. It's remembering that for us, that fear of failure, that fear of being seen weak, and of not showing up the way we're supposed to show up is so significant that our default will be to avoid as opposed to engage. Again, in early stages.
I mean, it makes total sense. Yeah. So what do you look for in your partner to carve out that safe space? Like what do you need, right? In your relationship to feel at peace, I guess, to be vulnerable? Like what do you need from your person?
I think I would say like all the things that I think any relationship needs to feel safe, right? Like in the workplace, we talk about emotional safety is being talked about more and more. I think in relationships, emotional safety is where you feel it's okay to show up not okay. Yeah. Guys, that's tough for us to do because we have to show up okay. There's a pressure. We always have to be on top of our shit. Like we can't show weakness, right? Because the society doesn't look well in that. Now, thankfully, that's beginning to shift, but it's still a big one. So where one feels safe and okay to not be okay, and that there is space for that, it gives that person, I think, space to explore. I just opened up, or I just demonstrated some vulnerability, or I just showed up not at 100%, and I didn't get judged or criticized or mocked or made fun of, or seen as less than, right? Then that creates an environment where that dude might start flexing that muscle more often and start doing more reps, and all of a sudden the shoulders start to drop and the defensive goes down and the distance starts to get smaller, and maybe he starts to open up and share things he's never shared before, right?
And I think it goes to what we asked that question last episode when kind of reversed it, and what do women need, and I loved your answer, Kate, because you kind of went the whole I don't know sometimes, and that's the answer. And I think it would be the same for guys on this one, is that it's a difficult question to answer with a here's what I need, because what I need might be different based on the circumstance, based on my energy level, right? All of these other things. And so there's probably in any couple, men or women, what we need is the space for understanding that we may not even know. And to figure it out together. And I think that's such a beautiful thing that we talked about last episode. And I think it falls in here is that we need to figure it out together.
Fundamentally, isn't it the basic human need I feel seen, I feel heard.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's the foundation of a safe emotional safety is I can be who I am in this moment. And there is room for that. There's room for me to show up less than.
Okay, and wrapping up, I'm looking at time. If there's one thing you could tell women that would help them hear men better, what would it be?
I know.
Some music there.
Well, I think it fits into what we just said. Give us the space to land. Give us that space to figure it out. Recognize that there is an underlying fear that we're going to fuck this up.
Yeah.
And so when I know for Wendy, when she gives me that space, when I'm trying to even communicate or I stumble or fumble around with what I'm feeling or saying, that she just gives the space and just listens, doesn't jump in, doesn't cut me off, just lets me figure it out. And then even after I say it, I might go, no, that's not it. She doesn't go, well, my God, what is it then? Right? Like it just, so give us the space to land.
Yeah. And I would say again, I said it earlier, but I would say assume good intent.
Yeah.
When we withdraw, when we're quiet, we're not trying to distance. We're not trying to shut you out. We're actually trying not to screw it up. Yeah. And when you can approach it from that perspective, everything changes because all of a sudden, even if we're fumbling our way forward, what is seen as the effort being made as opposed to what we feel is we're completely screwing up. And in that environment, pressure goes down, curiosity goes up, and all of a sudden, great conversations can follow. So assume good intent.
I love both of those. Well, this was an awesome conversation. Thanks everyone for joining us. If you like this episode, please like, share, and subscribe. You can listen to us wherever you listen to your podcast. You can also visit us at livingrichley.me where you can join the Facebook Living Richly Nation group. And if you're a business leader or leading a team, you can check out Rhapsody Strategies, who will help you along the way. So thanks again for joining us. Until next time, get out there and live your best life.